For the Koine Greek students, be patient. I work as a research assistant for a professor, probably the highest scholastic, one of the most respected pastors, Baptist pastors, apologists, hermeneutics, all that, Dr. John Penn. So I do research with him, pastor a church, and then I work on, of course, videos here. But on the second declension of the term logos or logos, however you want to pronounce it, again, the best advice I ever received is allow the person with whom you're speaking to pronounce first, and then you can always correct them because no one has enough certainty, you see. So if you set this up, this noun, logos, you first review it in your book, iterate, deliberative practice, iterate, repeat, write it out. But to set it up, you get your singular and plural. So this is just you doing your own work. If you need to, a dry erase board, they make small ones so you can interact on a small board, literally write it, fit like your laptop, if you will. Because any other way, I'm not sure without interacting with writing. So reading it, thinking it more rather, and writing it is perhaps the best way of which I'm aware. So then write your classes down, like this is a nominative, genitive, ablative, and then you have locative, instrumental, misspelled it, dative, and then accusative. The cases, I'm sorry. Why I said classes, but cases. So now your board is set up, and you can begin to fill this in. If you need a grid, I wouldn't recommend it, but you might need one. So if you just drew one out, then you want to help yourself, I can't possibly. There's things about me that my children can tell you that I won't be able to leave these lines on this board because they aren't straight lines, and they know that I have some kind of strange propensity for things being absolutely correct. So as I struggle to leave these lines the way they are, they will really get a kick out of watching this video. Oh my. But anyway, so you have this form here already. So you just write that out. And you say, well, what would that look like in plural? Well, let's come over here. Well, first, let me back up a second. Let's just get this written all the way. This is good practice to write these letters. It's good practice. You notice these are inverted if you notice these letters. So as you write these out, you say, well, this is redundant. Yes, and that's good for us too. As students, we're engaged in deliberative practice. We iterate, then we reiterate. So let's write this out. It's good discipline. You certainly will learn to appreciate words in the Bible. You'll learn to appreciate how they're inflected. And as you write down each of these case forms, you'll say, well, there's a lot more to that language. It's highly inflected. That's why a lot of the disagreements out there, if you want to call it, that even lead to conflicts, are really sometimes when we prefer something that's not written, we really we practice source avoidance, which means we really don't want to know the text. We don't want to become so familiar with it that what we held to be true between our ears, we can't find between the pages in the Bible. So we often have biases, cognitive and affective. We have tradition. So you bring all that to the table. One thing language study helps is it helps purge that out as the mind, as we're trained, discipled, we grow in grace and knowledge. So now we can add these endings here. This is oo, os, oo. These are the same, so that's good. Anything that makes this work out better. And then here, oh, sorry. Yes, sorry about that. That's a Yoda subscript there. Subscript means supposed to be below the line, so I didn't write below the line. Let me make sure I do that. There we go. So that's the letter Yoda, but it's below the line. And then accusative is, so we have logon, or logon, as people would say, logoi, logoi, logoi. And then we have logo. So you see these three are the same. That's very helpful when you start noticing these three are the same, these two are the same. That helps. And then when you are in your context and or in relationship to other terms, those will help you differentiate and discriminate the use of these inflectional morphemes. Now move over to the plural, and we just add oi. That's plural. This is genitive and adverb. They'll still be the same. So let's notice that these two will be the same. And let's not forget these three will be the same. So that's a relief. I always liked the smiley face. I had a very brilliant algebra professor, and he would write a smiley face. And I thought, this is strange, but he was actually helping bring attention to features of the algebra as we would learn so many different elements of it. And he would learn features of it that would really come in handy later. So here we have the genitive is logon. So once you get that one, rewrite it. And that's omega ni, omega ni. So make that alpha and omega, you know that, and that's ni. And don't forget that contains a part of the letter N. I mean, if you look at our letter N today, don't forget when you get distracted, these are a little bit, so if we drew our N this way, we're thinking about our Z, but if we looked at the parts of this one and we bring this over, you can see how we've almost got the parts of the letter N. So don't be thrown by the unusual, the oddity of the Greek letters. You'll become so accustomed to it that you'll notice that looks like a W anyway, and that's an O and an I, and it actually is an O and an I. So, and here instrumental, this is the plural form of the instrumental, and well, what I was going to tell you is it also is the same in some ways. Let's draw this line here. You see this, oi, again, repeats. Sorry. Oi. But notice that it's the same as this up here. It repeats, but it has the sigma that looks like the RS. So if you know logoi, nominative plural, then you know locative instrumental dative, logois, 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 and then of course you have this. This is us. Notice that oo again is here, and then notice that S. So I hope that helps you. I hope you have the Greek grammar, and I hope you test yourself, challenge yourself, look at your book, write it out. But if you'll notice these patterns, and that's really the only way I could learn. I had no time. Plus, I have a lot of learning. Well, just I learn it really differently. So I could look for patterns, and then when I'd see something that's the same, I would capture that. So, for example, if you want to know how I fill the board out, I I set it up. This is how I had to learn this. So I couldn't learn it. I couldn't learn these pieces without them being formatted into the total second class. Now, first class is the feminine, and that's easy to remember, ladies first, and that's certainly a helpful way of remembering it. But to show you here is when you set your board up like this, and you can do this. You get here, then all of a sudden you're noticing, you're writing notes on your declension here as triggers for you, and you're coming back over here, and you're very quickly now you can just write that in. You know, this is ooh, this is also ooh, because your note here told you these two are the same, so you know one, you know both. And then this is the omega, the iota subscript. The I is below the line there. And then this one is the accusative. And so you come back over here and you have oi. But then you remember these three are the same, so you also remember that these are built off of that. See now, and then you just add s because it's plural, that's sigma, but the final form is like our s, except it goes, the bottom half is subscripted. So that's a really good clue there. And this, these two are the same. And then this, of course, is built off ooh over here, and then you add that final s. So these last four are, as we do in our language, we add s to make something plural. So someone says, hey, did you see that elephant? And I said, hey, did you see those elephants? And all I did was add an s. So here, all we did was add an s, which that's something with which we're so familiar in our English usage that it helped me a lot when I could see these in light of it. Now go get your book, like my creepy little book that has these strange colored tabs and odd notes. I'll probably scan this in sometime, and I have all my notes from our Greek class, so if I scan those in, you can see the notes because our teacher was very thorough in giving us notes, and he also gave us indicators to prompt us later as we would go through and study these things, literally helping us reinforce our learning, because that'll be your key, is reinforcing your learning. And here, like on page 28, you can check your work. So take your page 28, back up and look at your work and say, os, ooh, ooh, oi, well, o, and then on or on, and then plural oi, on, and then ois, and then oos, and then check yourself. And that way, when you're grading your own work, you're really capable of looking there. But again, as I would do my practice at home, and certainly when I would have to answer these things on a test, I would make these marks. Now, I learned this also in language class. One of the references the teacher made was that on the ancient, let's say papyri, which is a nice way of saying paper, P-A-P-Y-R, paper. So on the ancient papers, scribes would place marks on it showing that they consulted another paper and things like that. So I thought, well, that was interesting. They had marginal notes and things in there. So I would mark my chart, so my declension, so I could remind myself these three are the same, these three are the same. Then I would notice that that's just adding s to this here, and it worked out very well. So this is word, of a word, from a word. Locative is in a word. Instrumental is to, for, and by a word. I'm sorry, by a word. Dative is to and for a word. Accusative is word. Objective case, as in the direct object. This is this would be words, of words, from words, in words, Remember, locative, 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 locale, local. In is location, in words, and of course, this is instrumental dative, by and with words, by and with a word, and then dative is 2 or 4 words, and then this is words. So if you get this grammar, it's PDF, free download. You can't not have this. And if you can, print it out. If you find one of these books, I would recommend you buy it. It's also interactive. It's part of the learning, because becoming familiar with a language, especially a Koine Greek text, which is spoken, it's not spoken, people don't use these things. You really need to find as many ways to interact. For dry erase board, learning how to set up the declension, noticing that second class is masculine. My wife wouldn't argue with that. And that helps you remember first class is ladies. Ladies first would be the feminine declension. And that is very helpful when you start learning those things. But you have a book to look at, hard copy. You have a laptop computer to call up the PDF, scroll through that. You can write on a dry erase board. You can write in a spiral notebook, and it will not hurt you. I've often been told that I study and somehow engage in excessive study, but I'm not sure what the alternative would be. I counsel people, and you can't do anything better with your mind than serve God with your mind. And I counsel people who wish to God they could recover their minds, retrieve them, call them back from where they've taken it, or where their minds have taken them. It's a two sides of the same dilemma. And this is how, if you ever become, if you will, a critical thinker, this is how you'll do it: by iterative, reiterative, deliberative practice. Deliberative is an adjective of deliberate. You'll have to deliberately do it. It's cognitive. This is an emotion. So like today, I'm exhausted, communicating with people, engaged with another matter. I have work scheduled for tonight. I have a 2:30 meeting. I have a 6 o'clock event. And yet I stop and override all of that nonsense, and with my mind stop. Made a video earlier today about the Lord's Supper, the substantial content involved in it as our church engages that. And then I'm working on a lesson for folks who would like to learn the Koine Greek text. So that's enough. I hope this helps you, and I may have talked too long.